Does everything have a bright side to it? Of course. Doesn't always outweigh the negatives, but everything has a bright side to it. This makes happiness a choice. And here we say that the discipline of being happy is the ultimate discipline. With that said, welcome to the Ultimate Discipline Podcast, where we meet with people who are practitioners of this exact discipline, and we hear their cool stories of cultivating happiness through challenges in their life. I am your host, Sean Greenspan. Let's get to it. Jason, Josh, I'm so excited to have you guys on. For everyone that doesn't know, these are the co-founders of Human Improvement. Human Improvement was introduced to my life from a mutual friend of ours, Eric. It is a protein powder. I'll let you guys describe, kind of what it is and how you came up with it. But it is, honestly, it's been my go-to protein powder. And we were just talking about how I like to mix it in with Greek yogurt with some berries and granola and start every day with it. So I appreciate you guys so much for making the time to come on. I just want to thank you guys. And, Jason, Josh, maybe you guys give yourself a little introduction about yourself and, the story behind Human Improvement. I'd really love that.
Sure. My name is Josh. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of Human Improvement. And, we really were looking kind of the landscape of what nutrition looked like. And we're pretty fed up with all the artificial ingredients, gums, fillers, and things like that we saw in the world and said, well, we really have an opportunity here to create a super clean product, doesn't leave you bloated. And really that's what we set out to about 3 years ago now.
Awesome. I love the doesn't leave you bloated, because that's something I've realized was like, I started shying away from certain proteins, for me, particularly whey and anything that just wasn't clean. Because it did make me feel bloated, and like after a wake up early, kick-ass workout, to feel bloated and have like a lack of energy to start the day was not exactly ideal. And not like this is a campaign for Human Improvement, but dude, I really haven't felt it with Human Improvement. So thank you guys for that.
Of course.
Jason, you want to give yourself a little intro?
Yeah. I'm Jason, the other co-founder of Human Improvement. I am a recovery and finance professional. Spent 10 years in the finance world, where I think my health and wellness and mental health were very low on the priority list of things to take care of. And I got out of that world about 5 years ago and have been on somewhat of an entrepreneurial journey since, with a couple different businesses, Human Improvement being the most recent one. And the first one truly within the health and wellness space, which has been fantastic. And, we truly, I'd say our mission at Human Improvement is literally in our name. It's that simple. We exist for the improvement of humans. And as Josh got into a little bit, it's in a space where there's a lot of products that are claiming to be better for people, when in reality are just not. And that's one of the things that motivates us, is to create clean, innovative products that actually help, improve the lives of humans.
Yeah. I love it. And it really is innovative. For those that don't know, I think one of the biggest things that you guys talk about is that it's cricket protein, right? Or that's an element of it. Talk to me about that. Why crickets?
So there's a number of reasons, and it's funny. One of the we'll take it back. Actually, we'd say we started with protein powder with Human Improvement because that's where we saw the problem most acutely across the supplement landscape. Unfortunately, we're in a world where the most popular flavors are things like Swedish Fish and Sour Patch Kids, and which to my knowledge do not exist naturally in nature, and are filled with God knows what artificial ingredients, flavors, gums, fillers to make them taste as such. And protein is so core to our every function in our body, every piece of our body. So having high quality protein is so important to our day-to-day wellness. And protein powder is a space where there's been very little, if any, innovation from an ingredients perspective in the last 30 years. I'm especially someone who's had issues with every protein powder they've ever had. So when we decided to tackle that, we're like, we're going to throw out the playbook. We're going to throw out what everyone else in the industry does. And I think coming at it from an outsider's perspective with a problem to solve allowed us to create a product that is truly unlike anything else on the market. I mean, starting with our blend of proteins, which is 3 plant-based proteins in cricket. So it's pumpkin seed protein, brown rice protein, pea protein, and the cricket protein. So you got not only like a complete amino panel, but also like a blend of micro and macronutrients that you just don't see. But beyond that, we've got we took out all the gums and the fillers, and we replaced them with functional superfoods. Things like psyllium husk, flaxseed, coconut milk, MCTs, again, things you just don't see in normal protein powders, both to boost gut health and get some healthy fats in there. But circling back to the cricket, one of the coolest things about it, and which is way anyone who's ever used it before is really focused on, is the sustainability aspect. It's truly one of, if not the most sustainable protein source in the world. It requires a fraction of the natural resources to raise the same amount of protein as it would traditional livestock. And basically there was a 2014 UN food chain sustainability study. Long story short, big conclusion was for the protein supply chain to be able to feed the population growth by 2050, the Western world needs to accept insect protein as a viable protein source. Otherwise, essentially, the environment's going to be decimated for all of the land and resources that just sort of expanding the general livestock would be. That's an amazing aspect of it. That's anyone who's ever done it before is really focused on that. We love that. That is one of the best things. However, that's not why we put it in our we put it in our product because it's a truly functional protein source. It's high, not only is it high in protein, not only is it complete amino panel, it's also high in fiber, it's high in B12, it's high in iron, it's high in zinc, it's high in calcium, it's high in magnesium. It's truly a functional protein source. And what we call is like an all-natural superfood.
Yeah.
And the other thing is it's just incredibly easy to digest. And that was the one thing that we were really looking for. There's been limited human trials with cricket, but the small ones that have been done have been shown that it can reduce inflammatory markers in the gut and also increase the positive microbiota. So it really sort of helped us along that path as we were trying to build what would be like sort of the cleanest, easiest protein powder.
Yeah. If I was speaking like candidly, right? So Josh, you mentioned you just took a run in Santa Fe, in the mountains. Like that's my life, right? I love the outdoors. So the fact that you guys have sustainable packaging, it's a sustainable source, that does get me stoked. But candidly, that probably wouldn't sway purchasing decision. I wish I could stand on my pedestal and tell you it would, but
trust me, we also learned that through trial and error. We love the sustainability aspect of it, but we've realized that won't sell the product. And in order for this to take hold, we need to sell the product. But like I said, we use this because of its functionality. The other great thing is it's minimally processed, so it qualifies as a whole food, which is why it retains all of those nutrients still in it, in a highly bioavailable way.
That's cool. Yeah, I always wonder about that. I try to eat as much whole foods as I can, but no whole food is like a powder.
Yeah.
And I've always thought about that. So I do want to circle back there. I was going to kind of go back to like the bloating aspect. Something that I've been trying to do is just increase my awareness and my mindfulness, right, in life. Like I think whether people call it that or not, I think that's something most people would align with. And as simple as it sounds, like something I haven't done a lot is like eat something, feel a certain way, and reflect, right? Like I think most people are like, oh, I just get tired in the afternoon. It's like, did you eat a cheesesteak for lunch? Like that might be why. And I've started doing that recently, and it's changed my habits entirely. I actually want all the listeners to like test this out, right? So here's a good example. Um, like if I eat like a cookie at lunch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because wow, it tastes good. I actually then have a work day where the next 4 hours I'm working after lunch is a little bit of a struggle because I'm lower on energy. I don't feel like I'm as productive, so it's probably adding work into my day. Then there's like negative feelings about that, like, oh, am I behind for clients? I feel like a little stressed. Like this is real. This actually happened to me recently. And I really all brought it back to like this big cookie that I ate at lunch. And you start to do that a lot, it literally changes what you crave. I
Mm-hmm.
start to look at sweets, like things like I don't even crave them anymore. Like I crave salads and clean protein, like healthy, foods, because like I've done this reflection process and I've started to realize like, oh wow, like I eat that salad, like it makes my business better. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like people don't like connect like that entire,
Yeah.
dot, whatever there. And like that's really why I made the switch over. So like, I still use Promix protein. I think their product is really clean, really solid. I like them as well. I don't think it's as complete. Also, I do have a little backlog, so sometimes I go back and forth. But what I've noticed is, I really like the fact that like I feel like light and energized after it, even if I do, like we talked about, I do some hearty servings, like an 80
Yes.
protein, 80 grams of protein after like a lift, like I still feel light, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
But yeah, that's excellent.
yeah. Um, how'd you guys get like how'd you guys get to a point where you were focusing on nutrition, right? Like where'd protein come from? You guys athletes yourselves, or um, where'd that passion come from?
I mean, I played baseball in college, and one of the things that I could never find was a protein powder that worked for me. And I was always the person like, how do I put on weight? How do I build muscle? I'm working my ass off in the weight room and I'm just kind of stuck and I can only eat so much food. And I was always trying to find a protein powder, and I probably went through dozens of them and they just all made me feel terrible. So I was never able to actually find that supplement to tack on. Um, then, as I mentioned, I spent 10 years with sort of health and wellness in the last part of my mind. Um,
Yeah.
and I think extricating myself from that world and kind of focusing a little bit more on going back to what are the things that are actually, what do I actually want to focus on and go after in my life? Um, Freed up sort of time and mental capacity to be like, oh, I like when I'm at my best, when I'm feeling my best is when I make time for movement, when I make time for activity, when I make that a part of my daily life, a part of my schedule. Um, and the beauty of now working in a business that is within the health and wellness space is that now that is now part of my job. No longer is that an additional thing. It's like, oh no, if I want to make this my life, if I want to devote myself to it, I need to make this like this needs to be a part of my life.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about you, Josh?
I was similar to Jason, although Jason stuck out the finance world a little longer than I could. I was in Vancouver for years, and plant-based protein was kind of all the rage there. And so I would have that, not looking to put on weight, but actually to lose weight, and to increase my protein intake. And I found that I was sluggish, tired. My body just doesn't agree with like pure plant-based protein. And so, but again, I just thought this was normal. This is a normal course of what you should expect from it, until I realized that, oh, no, it was because my body couldn't absorb, some of the unfermented pea and legumes and things like that were making up kind of really inexpensive plant-based proteins. And it was remarkable what happened once I changed my diet. Like energy increase was tremendous, focus was tremendous, and then it allowed capacity for other things to kind of sweep into the life there. And so, as we talked about, like, we didn't seek out to figure out, okay, how do we use cricket in a product? I think that would be a actually pretty challenging uphill battle. It was, how do we create the best possible product and look at the kind of avenues to do that while taking off kind of some of the traditional profiles and ingredients that most of the industry had used for years.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate you guys sharing the difference between that story, because I think like how to use cricket would be kind of like difficult, but I think it's probably good for potential customers to understand. Like it was more, how do we create the best product, and that was just the answer.
Yep.
And I do want to go back to the fact that I love that it's sustainable for the environment. Let's hop off human improvement. I was personally curious about it, and I think a lot of people would be curious about it. So and just like the unique element of it, I would
hmm
say. I actually want to jump to kind of a different topic, talking a little bit. We're going to just jump into the deep end here, but about self-love. It's a
hmm
concept I've been studying and thinking about a lot lately. Um, I think that self-love is kind of the root of a lot of this stuff that we're talking about, taking care of our body, exercising, taking care of like what goes into our body, taking care of the environment so we can, change that quite a bit, and still use, the earth moving forward. Something that I want to just kind of bounce off you guys, see if it resonates with you, is obviously we have obesity pandemic going on in our country.
hmm
Some people would say we have a mental health pandemic going on. And people aren't always motivated to take action and put healthy things like human improvement into their body. Do you guys see a connection between having self-love and respect for yourself and doing the hard work, or whatever you want to call it, to keep yourself healthy? Like, do you guys connect that dot? And just kind of want to open up a topic. This is not something I had planned or anything. This is something that I have been journaling about for weeks and have been waiting to chop it up with someone on.
So
Let's do it.
I would say yes. And I think with even the way you talk about it, I think is where people struggle with it, is that it is hard work, but people get so focused on the end goal, which is a lot of times far from where they started. And we live in a world where social media just shows before and after. And it makes it seem like everyone lives this step function life where they wake up the next day and they decide to be their best self. And all of a sudden they've lost weight and they're living this great life, which God knows if that's actually the truth. That's just the way it's shown. When in reality, there is no step function between the person you are today and your quote unquote best self, right? It's like, what is these small incremental steps that you can focus on, that you can do every single day to improve, to get you on this trip? Because there is no actual best self, right? We're always going to be trying to improve it. There is always some improvement that can be made. And I think one of the things that I know that I have found helpful is like, okay, great. I might have this long-term goal in mind of something that I want to get to, which is so intimidating. Like the idea of sometimes it's so far away that getting there is almost makes you not motivated to start. So what are the small incremental goals that you can make in the interim to try and achieve, and then celebrate their achievement, because they deserve to be celebrated. It's not just the focus on the long term. It's like, what are the small wins that you can do on a daily basis that compound and build on themselves? Because, it might be something that you're building toward 2 years out, but you set a monthly goal each one that you celebrate, makes you, build that self-love, so that when you're not looking towards the end, you're looking towards the next month. So then when you look back after 2 years, it's like, holy crap, like, look how far I've come. I didn't even think this was possible when I started, because I think, again, so much of like, oh my God, black and white, you're fully in or you're fully out. And it's just so intimidating for so many people to even get started on whether it's a nutrition journey, a health journey, skill building journey, changing professional skills, when it's really the mindset of like, what are the small, like, how can I build? It's building,
Yeah.
what's that incremental daily improvement as a human, just to bring it back to that I can do, that can be celebrated.
I I really, really like the focus on celebrating and
Mm-hmm.
celebrating and breaking it down to milestones. I started working with a life coach in
Mm-hmm.
January, one of the scarier things I've done, I'm a frugal person, try to watch my expenses closely. And, you know, when someone said, hey, I'm going to charge you 4 figures a month just for a 60-minute meeting, I was like, that doesn't sound right. And I was like, you know what, like, whatever. I decided to send it. And it's been such an amazing experience so far. I do recommend everyone works with a coach, a mentor, whether that's a friend or whatever, or even if it's your journal, some sort of formal self-work, I really do think is important for everyone. And what he has me doing is two things every day. One is visualizing my goals in the morning, right? And the other is pretty cool. It's journaling every little place in my life that my dreams showed up today. So I'll give you guys a little insight into what I'm doing. One of my big dreams is that I have helped 10 million people live a happier life through this podcast and my blog. That has also helped me to do more retreats that I want to do, help me attract brands for my agency. And it really has allowed me to grow the agency where I can really just focus on strategic roles with clients. And it's kind of that nice picture. A lot of times I think people might, you know, unfortunately, I have meetings before and after this podcast, right? People might just let this podcast roll by. I mean, a brand I love in the health and wellness place, the two co-founders hopped on, like that is like a thank you guys. That is a clear step towards like my dreams. And like a lot of times, like definitely before I was working with Tony, my coach, I wouldn't have really like even realized like my dreams that's your dreams happening now. You know what I mean? Like nothing happens. You're not just going to wake up one day. It's like, oh, my podcast has 10 million views. I have a super famous blog. I have 20 retreats scheduled. My agency quadrupled overnight. Like that's not how it happens, right? You know, like, and I think trying to like really find how many places your dreams showed up today, dude, it is an energizing task. Like it has been the best use of my time. Like every day I'm writing and I go to sleep like fucking salivating for the next day. I'm like, what's going to happen tomorrow? And it's funny because when I started it, I used to like maybe come up with 2 things. And now it's like I'm coming up with 20 things because I'm not judging them, right? I'm not like, was this podcast guest big enough? Do they have enough social media followers? You know what I mean? Like, it's just like just having fun with it. So I really appreciate that concept of celebrating and having like milestones. And you said daily and you said monthly, and kind of like talked about to like a year, multi-year goal. I agree that it should be, you know, it should be momentarily, daily, like monthly, weekly, whatever, you know, it should like reflecting should be something that we do a lot.
100%.
Josh, we opened up a big can, man.
You did well, I think Jason hit the nail on the head there. I think that was great. I would say it's interesting that we both come from a finance background, and typically health and wellness is not something that was a major focus of it. And that was, for me personally, that was something that was eye-opening early on. I saw, someone on the trading floor who looked like he was probably 65 years old. I think he was on his third wife at the time. I mean, the guy made a lot of money, but he was miserable. And it was understanding what that goal is and be okay with it. I think there is this focus quite a bit in North America, I would say. You see it's separating a little bit in Europe, is that it's you need to go to college, you need to get this degree, you need to make this much money, and here's a path to happiness, right? And now I think the pandemic opened a lot of people's eyes up to a nomadic lifestyle, which was typically frowned upon, right? Or was really out there before, and the ability to really do work that you enjoy, and finding that place of, yes, you need to have monetary compensation or just to live a happy life, of course, but it's not all about just trying to get a different position in the company or to make a certain dollar figure at the end of the day. I think that's been really interesting to shift. That kind of benefit coming out of the last few years is that shift in perspective for a lot of people they've had. And so, that's something that, me personally, I've reflected on quite a bit. I know a lot of folks in our community have seen similar things now, which has really been, eye-opening for all of us.
Yeah. it's quite interesting. You know, I try to like the conversation that you're just talking about, I actually recently tried to dumb it down for myself and just say, what do I spend my most time doing? Working. Why do I work? And if the answer is just to make money, the conversation would go like this in my head. Like, what do I spend the most time doing? Working. Why do I make money? So I can afford things. Okay, what things, Sean? You know, a house and food and everything else. You know, what I would tell myself is everything else doesn't really matter, right? I just experiences and relationships at that moment. It's like if that's true, I probably work too much then, right? You know, maybe a little security in the future. Okay. So it's like, but like, you know, just having that conversation with yourself. Again, I like to do all this written or typing. I find it more formal. I find when you think you can make logical jumps, when you write, it's a little harder to like, you know, especially if you read it back, you're like, oh, you can't just get from A to Z that quickly. Um, and you know, if it is just about money, I think most of us are either, you know, working too much or dedicating too much time there. And like it could be easier to just try to like lower expenses or something. And I do think you need to find something that like you're passionate about doing, like what you guys are.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh,
Yeah.
just to build off that, when I left my finance job, I'd been at the same hedge fund for 9 years. And I had what I like to call my 1/3 of life existential crisis.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I hit it at 1/3 of life and not halfway through life. And one of the big, as Josh alluded to, I think one of the big learnings, one of the big ahas was looking around at all of these guys who had made so much money, who were absolutely miserable. They were stuck at they're stuck at the office. They didn't want to go home to their wife, to their families. They'd built these huge fixed cost based lives for themselves. They were stuck. And when I left, um, I went on like a journey of reflection that I had put off for a long period of time. Because I looked around and I saw the only guys that were really happy were the guys who really enjoyed the work, the finance. Like the guys who wanted to be reading small cap 10Ks with their breakfast on a Saturday that had nothing to do with their day-to-day work at the office. It was like, oh, this is what they actually enjoyed doing. It's what they wanted to talk about. It's what they wanted to think about. And I think I tried for a long time to fit myself in that box, and then realized that that was never going to be me. And unless I wanted to find myself as one of these other people stuck in it, yeah, that was the time to at least get out there and see what else the world had to do, what the world had to offer. And I think a lot of us get stuck in these myopic, especially the finance world I know is one, but I would say the tech world's probably another. And if you were in them, it's this myopic focus of this is the only thing that matters in the world. Like this is the pinnacle. Like this is so important. And it's not until you take a step back and you get yourself out of it that you realize, wow, the world has so much more to offer. And you do a little bit of reflection. I think the biggest thing that I came to a conclusion on was understanding the difference between my wants and my needs and separating those two out and realizing that the things I need, which is, community, being healthy, spending time with family, and the things that I want, which is a lot more the material side of things, focusing on the things I want versus chasing focusing on the things I need versus chasing the things you want, which is a never ending sort of rat wheel, mouse wheel, has just led to significant more happiness and fulfillment in my day to day. But it's also when you start focusing on the things you want, you realize that the things you need come along with it. Whereas when you focus on the things, sorry, I keep doing this backwards. When you focus on the things you need, the things you want come with it. But when you
Yeah.
focus on the things you want, the things you need sort of fall, like they all of a sudden fall behind, and they
Yeah.
really start to lag. And I think really understanding that distinction has been a massive help and change to my life.
Yeah, I hear you again, and I really think, you know, like a theme I'm hearing here is the importance of like reflection and like, you know, because you were talking about like looking at like where people were. That's
Mm-hmm.
why I started my company. I literally looked around at people that were 5, 10, 15 years ahead of me, And I was like, wow, like they have an expensive, like, I was working at a cool company in marketing, but as people were like growing, like they were dealing with the same problems, the same stresses. They built a lifestyle that they then had to afford. And they really were kind of stuck. And it was just it seems like such a simple thing. It took me like 4 years to like reflect and do that, when I was like, oh shit, like I should change, because I know that's not what I'm looking for. um I think there's an interesting way that the world balances things out, though. You're talking about wants and needs, right? And like you were saying, like if you really do focus on the needs, right? Like the stuff that just like fills up your heart, your soul, energizes you, um, the wants do come along just magically, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you like a weird analogy, and let me know if this makes sense to you. I'm really trying to focus on, I built myself into a position where I was working 12 hours a day with meetings and emails, and quite honestly, that would be a lighter day. Um, and I'm working on like regaining, my time back. And one of the things that I'm doing to regain my time back is simply just blocking time for things, right? Cool. I'm gonna actually take a lunch break, 20 minutes, but I'm actually not going to eat in front of my screen. I'm going to take a walk in the middle of the day after that lunch break, keep my energy high. I know it's good for your heart. It's going to be 15 minutes. I'm not walking across the world. I'm going to, take a half day every other Friday in the summer, just because it's summer, things like that. And when I start to put those things on the calendar, my brain goes like, oh, that's literally impossible, Sean. Like you have work. The work gets done.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just somehow still gets done. Now, this is probably stuff you guys have been through, or are playing with now. I was like, okay, how can I do this further? So I started doing it with emails, right? Emails. We can all just send emails all day and pretend like we work today. I started like carving out time that I'm gonna do projects and not answering emails, and then kind of like batching the emails and stuff. But so I spent less time on emails. All the emails still got responded to. It's like, I know it's called Parkinson's law. Things take as much time as you allot for it. And I've really, really noticed that that's been a great way. That's just been such a great way for me to like kind of like optimize my life and just start to focus on the things I need. So I know that was like a weird metaphor, but does that align with kind of what you were saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, another thing is, as entrepreneurs, where there's always a million things to get done at any given time, I think we all find ourselves with 100 tabs open on our computer, in the middle of writing 3 emails, probably like storyboarding out 2 blog posts, working on a podcast, then all of a sudden none of them get done. It's like you said, it goes with blocking time, but it's like finish one thing before you move on to the next. Hit send on that email before you click over to the next thing. And it's so hard to force yourself to do, but it's so freeing once you can be like, oh, finish that, like check the box on my to-do list, on to the next thing, on to the next thing.
Mhm.
Otherwise that list just grows and grows and grows, and you end up with 10% of 10 projects done rather than 100% of a single one.
Yep. Oh man, I think I don't know. It all comes like, I've just been playing with this concept of self-love. Something else that I said to my coach was, I said, you know what, like, and I'm speaking for myself, right? I'm lucky where I have a roof over my head, food, and a little security for the future.
Mm-hmm.
And I told my coach, he's like, um, I said, you know what? I'm gonna dial back like how much I'm working, and maybe my company's not gonna grow as fast, right? And it's okay, because I said I don't need the extra money, I need the extra time. And this is what he said. He goes, if you loved yourself, you'd say you need both,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And that's what I love, because I think a lot of times we limit ourselves with like, well, it's not realistic to like work less and make more money like, yeah, it is. Like, we have technology we can leverage, code that can be leveraged, and media that can be leveraged, capital, people, like so many things can be leveraged for your time. That it's something else. Like I've just been trying to watch my language, right? Because like I think I was reading another book by Richard Bach yesterday. And it said, argue for your limitations and you can keep them. And that's like that's like how I felt like when I spoke to my coach Tony. I was like, I literally was like limiting myself to like, oh, I either can get money or time, but can't get both. It's like, not if you think like that, right?
That's very well put.
Well, it's how he put it. So
yeah. Well, by him.
I'll pass it back to him. Josh, again, I'm gonna go with the topic shift here, but I know you went for a run earlier, up in the mountains. Are you a big runner?
I started running years ago when I was traveling every week. I used to work for a large coffee company. I'd be on a plane every week, and the only way I could not become 300 pounds was throw my running shoes in the bag and run. And so, yeah, I try and run out every day if I can.
Awesome. And do you like to hit trails, or do you like to like road, or is it more just whatever's around?
It depends on where I am, to be honest with you. I prefer neighborhood. So if I land in a new city, I'll go and throw shoes on and run the neighborhood right away to get oriented myself. What I don't like is like if you're in a like a suburban area, you've got like highways. That's the worst. It's so depressing because you're running for miles on like a straight highway road. You've got trucks passing you. That's one of the worst. But I do enjoy. I would say 90% of it is in like urban environments.
Yeah.
And then yeah, when I get on trails, it's great. Obviously, your speed changes considerably when you're in trails. You've got local animals to be thinking about on your run. Um, but yeah, no, I definitely try and do that. And as we talked about kind of before jumping on here, the elevation change is quite humbling. And so we're just north of Santa Fe, so it's about 8,000 feet up, which I didn't realize how much of an impact. The first couple of miles you're fine, and then you really start to feel it after that.
Well, 8,000's high up. I lived in the highest elevation town in North America, Alma, this winter. We were living at 10,800 feet.
Wow.
Dude, it's like, you just high intensity work or just like a slower, just like long distance run. I mean, it just, you just have less oxygen in your muscles, and yeah, it does start to wear you down. As I think, like you said, as the workouts continue, unless you're really doing high output, you won't notice it, in my opinion, right away. It's more like just like so much less oxygen in your muscles and your blood for so long. It's like,
and if you choose to have a glass of wine at dinner, you're pretty much having one glass of wine, because anything more than that is not going to feel great.
Yeah. So your running habit, what is that? What does that kind of like mean to you? Like, obviously you said, it won't be, it's your way to not be 300 pounds, or was your way to not be 300 pounds. Is that something that you're running basically every day?
I try to, and it's more for mental clarity. That's a big part of it. And so it's like the single thing you can do. Like it's the most efficient way to get mental clarity, get physical fitness and movement in with like the least amount of work, because you just need running shoes. Pretty much all you really need. Doesn't take very long. One of the reasons I have a lot of friends that are big cyclists, especially in Austin. Challenge is I don't have time for a 3-hour bike ride like on a Saturday morning. I'm not choosing to do that, right? Because cycling is designed to be super efficient, whereas running is not that efficient. So it forces you to get kind of everything relatively quickly. And so, it's interesting as we started this conversation around incremental improvements, and that's one thing I've always been a big adamant on is that I truly believe anyone can run a marathon. Anyone can. It's just about how long it's going to take you, right? So if someone's never run before, I mean, a lot of people hate running. I understand why, but it's the single kind of best way I've ever seen for people to get into fitness, get into movement, right? If you can't run, walk a block. If you can walk 2 blocks, then you can like do a walk jog. It's the best way to kind of build up with the least barriers to it.
Yeah. And I would agree with you if we, instead of called it running, just said like, moved on our feet.
Sure. Yeah.
I heard something recently that I like that's like, like walking and running, that is the human movement. That is just how humans get around, right? Like some animals crawl, some animals slither, some swim, we walk or run.
Mm-hmm.
So like you said, right? Everyone's a walker, a hiker, a runner, a jogger, it's just like that's how we get around. Um, I love the simplicity of it too, where it's like, like when I like my favorite runs are like in the summer when I have running shoes, socks, shorts. I don't even have a shirt, no phone, no headphones, no
Yeah.
watch, nothing. Like it just makes me feel, I don't know, kind of like natural, it's just like how we should go. And yeah, whether it's I actually am an advocate of people not running unless they feel like they have good form. I just think um, if you saw someone like flailing in the pool that was like faster than floating, you wouldn't call that swimming. And that's how like I look at running. Like I just ran a marathon this weekend. I saw some people with like some fucked up form. And like I like honestly, like not trying to be on a pedestal, I would not call what they were doing running. It was like limping. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, limping is probably exaggeration, but it was like just like moving faster than a walk. That's what it was. um but it is I don't know, it's kind of just like magic to me, what it does for my mental state. I don't use a phone or anything when I run, um and that I think that it's a meditation. That's exactly
Mm-hmm.
what it helps you get into your body, which I love quite a bit. um Guys, I know we got to wrap up here pretty soon, but I wanted to ask you a couple quick questions, uh, just about kind of our conversation and the product. And whoever gets to it first can go. But the first one is, where'd the name Human Improvement come from?
It's a good question. Now that I'm looking back, I think we were just throwing around so many different things, and when we thought about our goals, it was one of those like light bulb moments when human improvement came up, and we're like, wait, of course, this is the perfect name, because what are we trying to do? Like what it's like,
Yeah.
as we were writing down things of like, what do we want to do? It's like helping humans improve, helping people improve. How do we become better? Which is also so encompassing of what we want to build this into, um, and such an audacious goal in that it just seemed so perfect.
Yeah. Love it. Um, obviously people are interested in human improvement, cool. But you guys, it sounds like you're more mission driven to get people to eat, healthier foods, higher protein, to eat things that like uh don't bloat them and like, actually make you feel good throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to kind of word that one, but the question I have here for you is like, besides just eat human improvement, is there, or take human improvement, is there um, something that you would recommend to everyone that's just trying to improve themselves around the diet for
I
sure?
I think it's about movement. Daily movement is the other big critical piece, and that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, as we just talked about. But that is one of the most critical things. I think if you start with nutrition and movement, there's the kind of two pillars on it, which then help with mental clarity, focus, and kind of everything else you've got going on.
And I think when it comes to nutrition, it is focusing on consuming as much whole food nutrition as you can. The problem is it's really hard. It's really hard to have as much, to go out, buy all the groceries, prep all the food, do everything you need to have, a bunch of chicken breasts, a bunch of vegetables. So like, what are the, when you can't focus on that, what are the things that you can fill in that aren't highly processed, foods that I think we all end up filling those gaps with? What are the cleaner options? What's the better, potentially
Yeah.
whole food based or snacks that you can have? And that's one of the other gaps where our product comes in great, because again, not only are we super high in protein, we're high in fiber, and it's got which that combination of protein and fiber does a really good job keeping you full without feeling gross.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
And what are what are these ancillary benefits that you can get from the things that you're eating rather than just I'm hungry, I'm gonna grab the cheapest, quickest thing.
Yeah. That is where I found supplements, right? Like the definition is it should supplement your diet.
Yes,
And I
exactly.
and I do like to, try to get as many whole foods as you can. I think a lot of people undereat. I think almost everyone undereats protein.
Hmm.
And even you guys are pretty clearly saying, hey, if you can get all your protein from clean, healthy meats, do it and
All
never
power
pick
to
up
you.
human improvement. But if you're, I'll say like me, and like, I do a big 2-hour morning workout that
Hmm.
generally leaves me getting going into my day, like to be able to just, get what I need in a more convenient manner is definitely worth it to me. So,
Well, it's
um,
also the older we get, the more the quality of the fuel that you put into your body matters. And I think when we're in our teens and most of like our 20s, it's kind of like whatever, whatever I eat is just going to keep me fueled. The older we get, the higher the quality that needs to go in to continue to operate at a high level, to continue to feel good. It's just we just don't process food the same way. And I think a lot of people don't understand that shift as it's happening and just don't understand. I'm like, oh, I'm getting older, I feel like crap. It's like, well, no, you just need to actually focus on the fuel going into the furnace now, because the furnace is no longer burning hot enough where the fuel doesn't matter.
yeah, that's funny. That's funny. I'm 29, so I hope not to deal with that for a few more years.
But it sounds like you're already eating well, so it's not that transition will be a whole lot easier.
Trying for sure. Um, Guys, I know we got to wrap up here. I really want to thank you so much. We're talking about what we did in the beginning. Like, this really is a step for me to, be achieving my dreams, and I appreciate it. So I'll be uh grateful for you guys for coming on, and I look forward to next time we get to chat.
Thanks
Thanks
for
for
having
having us.
us.
It was great.
It's been great to be a part of that.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Hey, thank you for watching today's episode. If you got something out of this, it would mean so much if you could just take a second and give us a rating on whatever platform you're watching it on. And it would mean so much to the world if you could just find one person that you think this message resonates with and you can share that with them. Thank you so much for your support. Looking forward to share the next episode with you.